Hi everybody, Dave Briggs here, former CNN, Fox News, NBC Sports anchor, bringing you once again Connecting Connecticut, some conversations to really bring this town together in these disconnected times. Some of the most fascinating people in our town, you wouldn't believe it. We talked to Dan Orlovsky, the former NFL quarterback, ESPN analyst, the Today Show host, Craig Melvin. We talked to Jim Marpy, our first selectman, and Bill Taibbi, restaurateur, chef extraordinaire, opened up his new restaurant, Don Memo. Check that out. We're very honored today to bring you a conversation with the new Staples High School principal, Stafford Thomas. We apologize for no interaction and taking questions from you during this conversation. We had some technology issues. Thankfully, I do have some questions already submitted by some of our followers and some of our listeners. So we'll post this thing in its entirety as we welcome in the new principal of Staples High School. Great to see you, sir.
Well, happy to be here.
We're all envious of everyone in education usually because summers are so relaxing. You get the summer off. How relaxing has this summer been?
It has been wild, and I figured it would be just because as soon as COVID hit, March 11th, for us, we were the first school to be out in the state. And it has just been so disruptive and difficult to somehow navigate through the spring. And this is a spring being the first year at Staples that I had never seen before. So, it started out with a heartbreak for our students, for our student athletes, as they were right in the middle of the winter tournaments. And right now, the CIAC will be announcing probably August 3rd what the plans are for the fall. So you're looking at this total disruption, getting through graduation and having it outside. And I think kind of, sometimes they say a tree grows in Brooklyn. You have we had one of the best graduations ever, in that it was outdoors. People were saying that they loved it so much that even if, and hopefully we're going to be back able to be inside to that number in the field house before, it was still much more of a personal feel. So somehow, you don't expect things to go the way you think. You get these wonderful takeaways. So that was really a great way to end the actual school year, because for our seniors that lost so much prom, traditional graduation, acceptance, all of that to colleges and the excitement, it was something that they were able to enjoy on that day. So, that was definitely a bonus. But in looking at the summer and what we just had a board meeting last night in terms of re-entry.
Yes, we did. We had a big Board of Ed meeting last night, 3 different plans they had to submit, and we're going to get to them. What school will look like in the fall? That, of course, is the question on all of your minds. Don't worry, we will address that, but we want you to get to know your new principal before we get to those type of questions. So tell us a little bit about yourself. For those folks that don't know you, you came from St. Croix to New York, to Trumbull Middle School's Hillcrest Middle School. Just tell some folks a little bit about yourself, what you do when you're not the principal at Staples.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's been a wonderful year at Staples, so excited to be here, because even through all of the disruption that took place, the students and faculty are exceptional. And that's why you come into this wonderful school, and the community has been outstanding. It's just something about me. Yeah, this is a long way from St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but it's just through my career in administration. And I said this multiple times, being able to take over a school like Staples with all of the accolades and reputation has just been an outstanding experience. And with it, we're navigating through these difficult times with the expectation of being the best school, the best high school in the state. And so that is something that we're constantly striving to do in terms of creating the traditional offerings that build that reputation, but also the work that we put in this year, especially around creating an atmosphere for our students, things that maybe aren't seen necessarily outside, but we're serving our students and family community here. And so building that bond in school is something that we're working towards this year and in the coming year. So, COVID will not stop us from continuing that goal, and I think we're kind of rebounding from the spring, and all the districts in the area are working together are working and sharing ideas as to what's the best way to come back. And we're looking at the best way to come back for Staples, because each school is a little bit different.
Yeah. Little known fact about Stafford, He was on the same swim team as Tim Duncan, the legendary Hall of Famer, big fundamental San Antonio Spurs, one of the greatest of all time. He's also been to every Major League Baseball park, which is extraordinary. I am envious. What is your favorite, or what is your least favorite ballpark?
Oh, there you go. We're going to go coast to coast. Maybe the west coast of Florida, but to the west coast. Yeah, to least to most favorite, I would say the least by far is the Trop.
The Trop. it is awful. In Tampa.
The Trop in Tampa Bay is awful. And I was at the Kingdom, which for Seattle is kind of like watching a ball game in like a 1970 living room. But the Trop is awful. Safeco in Seattle is gorgeous, but I have to go with Chavez Ravine out in Los Angeles, home of the Dodgers, as my favorite ballpark. The food, the scenery, it's just incredible. If you want to go for new, kind of new wave ballparks, I would say PNC in Pittsburgh is
one of the most underrated parks is Pittsburgh. Just an incredible view of the city looking back at it. Yeah, a man after my own heart. Been to all Major League ballparks. That's incredible. Again, we're going to get to the questions about school opening in the fall, but first let's talk about what's going on across the country in addition to COVID, which is the Black Lives Matter movement, which is protests in thousands of cities across the country, including ours. How do you teach racial sensitivity in a town that is 1% Black? How do you get students to be aware of diversity when it's just not a part of their life?
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you know, a challenge, and you know, it's interesting because it's seen as a movement, but you know, obviously for me it's every day. But looking at getting students to understand that is key, because as I said earlier, we're trying to provide the best environment for our students, and that means the best experience for them. So this year, when we brought on our advisory program for the first year, that was the goal, because you know, as I said earlier, the reputation of Staples you know, is second to none, and that's because of the offerings, the program of studies, and so that's what we have. But when you have all of those offerings, people are going off in many different directions, and so how do you then build a bond, a community from that? So that helped a lot. We were starting to through the voices of our students, through the conversations, what are your experiences like, what can we change, what do we need to improve, what do we have to make aware in terms of the blind spots that we have. So really, I think the way you start to address that is from my perspective at least, is looking at the kind of a blind spot bias. You know, we're all biased, and to understand that we'll start to open you up to start to look and question and reflect, as opposed to I don't do that, I don't do that. And what is offensive. We're seeing so many changes now going into the world of sports, if you will, just the recent change of the Washington football team. So, you know, that's something that's been on the table for 30 years and nothing's happened, but those changes of, the Cleveland Indians are having conversations, the Atlanta Braves. And so it's really that starting to have that reflection of, wait a minute, is this something that is offensive or not as inclusive as it should be for all of our, in that case, fans, and here for our students? And so it really is trying to create that atmosphere. And it's something which is fairly new, because you have marginalized groups. We were looking before we left for COVID, you look at race, religion, you look at LGBTQ, and you also look at gender. And those are all areas that we were about to address as we had built up kind of equity and capital in our advisory programs. So that's a very difficult undertaking in and of itself. And so that's where we were headed, and that's where we will continue to head. The PTA is going to help us out a great deal, as they now have a diversity wing. Team Westport, as you know, in town. There's a Team Westport club in school, and we have a number of teachers and administrators also on board, looking to capture that student voice again, and then to kind of track and see what this experience is like for students. So
I got a question from a local prominent filmmaker, professor at Columbia, his son as well, who wrote a very heartfelt essay about some of the racism he's seen when he graduated from Staples. So their question was in two parts. What steps are you taking to diversify the teaching staff? What steps to increase and better integrate out-of-town students of color are you taking?
That's a great question. It's actually a committee where we Westport, we're one of 8 districts that are working with the state to increase the diversity amongst educators and administrators. And so, in looking at that, you're looking at the applicant pool and who we're starting to bring in, how you start to look at that. And so one of the key shifts that you do is if you look at Connecticut, it is one of the, when you look at race and socioeconomic, it's one of the most segregated states in the country in terms of the breakdown of the districts. We also have so many districts, so you have that segregation taking place. So it's very difficult when you have an opening, let's say, for let's say an athletic director, and you just go over to the next town and say, who are one of your finalists? Who do you know? If you keep asking the same questions in the same surrounding region, you're probably going to get similar people. And so it's harder then as you apply for any job, as you know, if someone has an inside track, let's say because of word of mouth or a connection, it's harder to get applicants that may not be or look like the town. And so, that is something that just getting those applicants to the table, because then, the reputation goes out, well, I'm not going to have a shot there, or it's not going to happen for me. That's not obviously what I saw. I applied for the job, and here I am as a principal. But it is something that we have to be cognizant of, because as you look through the history of this region, there aren't too many, if any, high school principals that look like me. And so that's something that the state is grappling with, and I was very pleased to see that Westport is one of the 8 districts that will be working with the state. We started 2 meetings prior to the shutdown, and this group will start up again as we start to look at recruiting teachers and administrators of diverse backgrounds into that. So that's something that we started in our process here, and we're seeing some success from that. For the students, it's really looking at having a voice, and that is key. And now, I think last year in engaging with the students, they felt that they definitely had a voice, and you see someone who looks like you, or maybe there's a chance for change just because there's new administration, and saying nothing speaking ill of any prior administration, but just it's like, oh, maybe it's a new opportunity to bring this up. And so that's something which is, and we also didn't have the advisory program. So I think what you started to see was, oh, okay, we're starting to look at the social emotional lens kind of our students and the experience they have, because we're having these programs that are in place.
Is racism a problem at Staples High School?
It's a problem everywhere. I mean, it's a problem throughout the country, and schools are microcosm of that. I think the benefit is that children are they're the most resilient. They're open to learning, and so once we set up the structures in place to look at what are some problems, and we start to address it, you see the changes very quickly, which again, as the older you get, and as we know, kind of the more stuck in the ways you are. So we do have that opportunity, but I would say that we're working on building our community, and this is not sidestepping the question. It's just we have the same issues that the country that you see in this country, based on the history that we've experienced, again, in a lot of those areas. So it's not just race, it's in we're looking at gender, we're looking at religion, we're looking at diversity. And yes, it is sometimes more of a challenge.
But do you feel you're treated differently in this town or at this school because of the color of your skin?
It's something that I felt that I've been treated very well here. I think as you look at something like microaggressions, has been something very big that's come up. That was just, those were things that people, my age, it didn't have a term, it didn't have a name, and it was a different time. So when you look at what students have experienced and things of that nature, I've experienced that. I can go from here in a suit and tie and go shopping, and someone will ask me, oh, where's the meat, where are the peas, and things like that do happen, of course. It's nothing that I haven't experienced anything here that's made me feel uncomfortable here, but it is an exceptionally large job and challenge to start to address the needs that we have to face with our students and how they're feeling. But that is something that we were starting to shift towards in terms of the general kind of social emotional. But looking specifically at race, diversity, and inclusivity, that is a large challenge. So that is something that you definitely lose sleep over, because it is such a big task. But the feedback from the students and the support from the students will help. But
you've got enough on your plate, and then there was COVID. And the biggest question on the minds of everyone, I think, in Westport, everywhere I go, is will our kids be back in school in the fall? Should they be back in school in the fall? There are 3 different options that you had to present. The Board of Education had a meeting last night. There is one, stay at home. There is a hybrid plan, and then there is an in-school plan. Let me just put you on the spot. If you're a betting man right now, what do you think will happen in the fall? Which of those models will we be following?
I don't think you can legally gamble in Connecticut. Right?
Yeah, that is true. Well said.
It's I guess the answer to that is yes.
Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting. I think we're really going to look at our new superintendent is got us in the right direction in terms of the focus really on transmission rates at the time in the state in terms of COVID.
And we're doing great
right now.
Yeah.
As we saw, I mean, that can change in a week or two, and so I think we're going to be looking at where are we. The schedules had to be submitted to the state. We're going to be making changes. I think it was presented last night that the schedules were pretty much a first draft for all of the schools that put it forward. Now, distancing and the safety measures, as we work with the WWHD, as we look at what the state has recommended, as what the teachers unions have put in, those are all things we're going to work on to see what can we do and to safely distance and follow those requirements. So ultimately, we'll have to look at that, and it may look different at different levels based on transmission rates of those that are in high school versus some of the younger students, as well as space. This is obviously a very large school. Distance learning, though, something that we tweaked last year is we took the feedback from that, and we have a much more robust plan.
Do you think it succeeded, forward. Distance learning?
I think to some extent it did. I think given the, I'll give us a, definitely a passing grade on that in terms of what we were able to accomplish under the circumstances. And that's in conversations with other schools in the Derg and what they were experiencing as well. I think we had we made a great adjustment and shift. And I think that going into it now with some more training, some more understanding of technology and how we can best reach our students and that it will help. It stinks overall. I mean, the reason I got into this was not to, get on Zoom conversations and to manage from afar. We all want to be there with our students, and hopefully, at this time, next year, we're going to be at a point where we're able to not worry about masks and how far apart we have to sit and all of that. That's what we can hope for. But the plans are in place. The decision could come late as to what we're going to do, because we want to have the most up-to-date and accurate decision, so we don't have to shift or adjust on the fly. And we still don't know yet kind of what the threshold will be when we do start to have some COVID cases in the schools. What do you do? So we will have that information as we get closer to the start of the school year. So it's frustrating to a point, but it's something that the entire state is looking at, and all the districts have a different schedule.
So one of the models was a hybrid where kids will go to school Tuesday, Thursday, and another class will go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I'm a betting man, that's where I think this is headed. But one of the big takeaways was that if kids are in school at Staples High School, they will go to school 10 hours less per week from 6 to 4 classes. So no matter how we slice it, how do you tell parents that their kids are going to get the same level of education as they should, as they did a year ago?
Well, I think, and it's a great question, because sometimes that's kind of maybe what jumps off the screen or the page in terms of the schedule. The reason for that time is to make the adjustment, because you are going to have, because students do have the right to stay home, and we do know that some students will be learning remotely to start, regardless of however we start the year. We're going to kind of be in a hybrid model anyway, because part of our population is going to be a distance.
How many do you think? Is it 10%? That's what I'm told.
That's
a survey. Okay, 10% of students will opt to stay home.
That's what we got from the survey, but it could change at any time.
Okay.
So we could start out at 15%. People may come into the building and say, you know what, I want to stay home, or vice versa. Things are great. Let me see how the first couple of weeks go, and then they come in. So you could be fluctuating either way within the first 2 weeks of school, let's say, in terms of how many are going to be home. And so, with that, you're looking at an equity issue as to the access to education, and so the extra time at the end of the day allows for students learning remotely to reach and access their teachers, as well as teachers to continually get the PD to provide the best instruction. The PD time that we worked into our schedule, and this is why that part of the reason I give us a passing grade for our distance learning in the spring, was the PD time that we worked into that schedule dramatically enhanced our ability to provide that quality education. And we did see that, especially in a lot of the senior projects, the quality of work that was coming in. But from the teachers' perspective as well, that helped a great deal in terms of the engagement of our students. So that time is going to be used for PD, for connections, because we can't do our small advisories because of transmission and trying to cut down on transitions throughout the day. Yeah. So that will also provide for some of that SEL and some of that work that we're looking to do around race and other areas that we have to work on and improve them.
You talked about a 10% number, which is the survey of how many kids are expected to opt out. Karen Hess, one of the viewers, wanted to know, what are you hearing from teachers unions, about their hesitation to get back in the classroom? How many are you getting a sense might opt out of teaching and might not feel safe in the classroom?
Sure, and that's, you can't have school without the teachers. So it is a number that we don't have yet.
Do you have a ballpark?
No, I don't have any idea yet as to that.
What are you hearing from teachers?
Right now, teachers are looking to see what is being done kind of in the classrooms, what are the requirements that the state is kind of putting out there, and you're also hearing CDC. So I think as we, in the coming weeks, as we start to get the kind of requirements posted, if you will, as to this is what the WWHD, the state, and in working with the CEA, the teachers union, they also submitted their requests as for what they're looking for. There's going to be an evaluation of all of those requests, and we'll see how can we make it as safe as possible. And I think from there, once those protocols are put in place, I think that from there we'll start to get a number. But teachers, right now, I haven't heard from any, but are saying, "Oh, I'm not coming back." I think there's a big, waiting to see. We're going, obviously, working with the walkthroughs with the different unions to see kind of physically how we could structure the buildings, and they're doing all the buildings. So it's really to see, these are the measures that we have to abide by. Here's what we have. In some cases, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. And then from there, it's going to be looking at, okay, what does our attendance rate look like for teachers? Because obviously they're in a higher risk from what we know now in terms of the data than the students. Certainly. So it's a concern, and also with the districts that their children are in, that's something that I think people understand, but at the beginning that they're working at home with their own children and how difficult that is. Again, another reason for passing grade has just been the tremendous work from our teachers and the faculty to adjust on a fly like this. So again, it was a very robust program that we had, distance learning, comparatively speaking, for the state. And so moving forward, we definitely have a great plan in place for distance learning. We'll always be tweaking that, but no, you're not going to get the same exact instruction that you get when you're in school all the time. However, there were benefits in terms of some independent work that was being done and guidance from the teachers that typically maybe didn't happen for as many students as it did. So.
I have three kids at home, and I can tell you, two of them did not learn a thing, but none of them were at Staples. So two of them were at Bedford, right next door, and they learned nothing last semester. Apologies to you Bedford teachers, it did not work. Distance learning did not work for at least two of my three. You're a parent though. Where our numbers are right now, would you want your kid back in school in the fall 5 days a week?
Our numbers are right now.
COVID numbers.
Yeah. It's we're looking at that because in 2 weeks I'll be welcoming another little guy.
Yes, you will. So, you've got a busy summer.
Yeah, so that's you know, something to think. My wife's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, so you know, having a newborn at home, you know, the little guy goes to preschool, so that's something that we're thinking about. Just to see, we probably want to see.
You're hedging. Would you want him in school? Your son or daughter? Son, would you want him in school right now, where we are, July 24th?
I would.
Okay.
However, I have my wife and the newborn may have, well, not the newborn, he won't have a lot to say other than keeping us up.
Yeah.
But he'll have plenty to say there. But she may have the last word on that. So she's, you know, and that's something obviously with a newborn, and it's been so frightening, some of the cases, obviously what I'm not reading she is in terms of COVID cases in newborns. And so, you know, going to the hospital for the birth, we've gone through different protocols, and what we have to do is very different from our first child. And that was, you know, 4 years ago. It could have been a year ago, and it would still been so different than we are now. But I would. But, you know, but in a house, it could be 50-50.
Sure.
And we know who will win that. And so.
You're lucky if you're at 50-50, man. I mean, most of us are about at 20-80. I would want my kids, all of them in school. I know there are some risks, but I think the downside of staying home is just far too great for both parents and kids, socialization, education. But that's just one man's opinion, not that the governor will factor that in. So we've been through a lot of the hard questions. Let's end on some easy questions. What do you love about this town? And you do live in Weston, but give me like a favorite place to eat or a favorite thing to do here in Westport when you're not at Staples High School.
Oh, it's a fantastic question. Let's see. Some of the favorite restaurants that I went to prior to Staples, the Welk.
Oh yeah.
My little guy is a huge fan of Shake Shack.
Okay, we all are.
So there you go for that. Westport's just such a beautiful town. Really, the library is outstanding. You know, what the renovations they did to the library, bringing the little guy down there. The downtown area is obviously gorgeous. So it's just such a beautiful town, and you know, the people, they love the town, they appreciate what it has to offer, which is really cool. And I think, you know, having conversations this year with some families that typically travel, but this year they're going to stay home, like, well, you couldn't pick a better place than Westport. And I was the principal at Mystic, so that's the #1 tourist destination in Connecticut, and that's a gorgeous part of the state. But to live here, I think that's one thing, is there's so much pride for the town, and that's where I said I really felt appreciated by that, because you know, we're looking to create something special here, and that is the pressure, but that's also the benefit of being here. And you know, why would you want to be anywhere where you didn't want to be the best? And so so no, Westport has been fantastic in that way. I'm trying to think of some restaurants. Ignacio's Pizza opened up this year.
I haven't been to that one. Okay.
I recommend that. And
you're a New Yorker, so you got to try the New York pizza place that's coming to Westport.
There you go, Brooklyn, exactly. But the it's not Saltwater, it's the coffee shop next to it.
Shearwater.
Shearwater.
Yeah.
Fantastic cup of coffee.
The cold brew will wake you up there, man. I'll tell you that much. Well, that's good. That's plenty of shout outs. You have got a full plate. You're right. If you got to be stuck somewhere, Westport, Connecticut is a pretty good place to be stuck for the summer if you're not allowed to travel. And we've got a lot of issues coming up this school year, but we've got the right man to handle it all. Stafford Thomas, our new principal here at Staples. He's the man that's going to tackle all these challenges, and he will handle all of them. It's great to have you here. I think we do the elbows here or whatever.
Just like the Bash Brothers back in the 80s.
I see some of the kids kicking feet. We don't shake hands anymore, but it's great to meet you, and best of luck this year.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
And sorry for the technology issues, everyone. We'll get the Wi-Fi squared away next week when we talk to you about the same time. Thanks.